I met him a number of times early in my career. Lawrence Rico was one of those patriarchs and gurus of the industry that all young geologists went to when they had questions about projects in Nevada or elsewhere where Mr. Rico had worked. I had several such meetings towards the end of his long and very productive life. He was, by all standards, both a gentleman and a man highly respected in his profession, with a very excellent record and reputation.
When I first started intensively investigating the files with my father, I was totally blown away by the amount of data in them. This data had come in, a lot of it during the 20s, especially the 30s, when my father and grandfather were in partnership with Herbert Hoover. Prospectors from across the western U.S. would send in hundreds of submittals every year, hoping to gather the attention of the former president and my family on their properties.
President Fujimori and former Finance Minister Pastor had expressed interest in the Hoover RICWA files and the extensive information they included and contained regarding certain properties in Central America. President Fujimori was interested in introducing Steve and Banner to a number of Peruvian companies who were interested in investing in that part of the world and using those files as a basis for doing that.
My father had given 5 tons of data that he thought was of largely historical value from mined-out mines to the University of Wyoming. He kept the rest for me for exploration purposes, and it was what he, as one of the great geologists of the world, had considered of prime exploration value. So it was stuff that was of very real and very major value.
Stephen in 1991 was invited through an associate at the time named Carlos Rodriguez Pastor, who I believe was a former finance minister of Peru, to attend a reception for President Fujimori in San Francisco. And we attended that reception with Steve and several other associates with Banner at the time. Following the reception, there was a private audience with President Fujimori in his suite in the hotel, which I believe was St. Francis, and we were invited to attend that private meeting. Were introduced to the president and subsequently had a little get-together with cocktails with a number of other San Francisco dignitaries during that evening.
At the same time, as geologist John Prochnow will be able to explain to you, there was occurring in the mining industry a great interest in developing new properties in Latin America.
In the 1990s, with a change in the global scene, the fall of the Soviet Union, etc., a number of new regimes came into power in Latin America, including President Fujimori in Peru, whose policies were more oriented to an open market. So this meant that there was increased interest by the international mining community in investing in countries like Peru and the Central American countries, which had a very great mineral endowment, but the lack of investment for some time. This, of course, made Stephen RICWA and Banner's possession of proprietary information in the Hoover RICWA files of extreme value at that particular time.
As I have written over the past 10 years in internet cafes across Europe in my now complete book, the problems for Banner International all started after my meeting with Alberto Fujimori. The problems were instigated by Weldon Smith, a close friend of my late half-brother Mark RICWA, who had many ties with high-level East Coast mafia leaders. Smith, I believe, was also allied with those mafia elements, and he is standing behind me in the picture with Fujimori. A few months after that meeting, Smith organized, in my absence, a fraudulent sale of shares in Banner International. It was designed to force the company into a joint venture with a Vancouver shell company, Mango Resources. A recorded conference call of Weldon Smith with Banner's counsel Bruce Coney in Utah regarding that stock fraud fell into my hands a few months later.
I've read, I just question the timing of the raising to do what they have to do, but I see what I believe are by, and I would have to say this, by the people who promoted the seminar, probably some substantial security violations. American or Canadian? Federal. United States. And one of the things that people sometimes don't understand is that every violation of federal securities laws is both civil and criminal. There is no purely civil violation of securities laws. Every violation of any rule or regulation of the Securities Act carries both civil and criminal penalties. Now, I'm willing to look at this, and I'm willing to examine it from every standpoint, and try to structure something the company can make silk out of the fowl's ear with. But the fact of the matter is, I can't change what was done. Question, did any of you meet? Were any of you at the seminar? I was. Did you guys speak and talk about the deal? No. Yes. Well, Bill didn't. I did. You did, Weldon. Anybody else talk about the deal and what was expected? Yeah, two other gentlemen. Two other people did also. They spoke. Was Steve at the meeting? He was not at the meeting. Steve was in Latin America or well, I haven't even got into the issue of the stock and knowing whether you can even hold stock or not. Now, I've got to look at some corporate records because people who make representations about stock being available for sale don't know how many shares are outstanding. Oh, you're saying because we hadn't amended the bylaws for more Banner? Yeah, you can't ever offer to sell stock that you don't have. Well, that's cold tricky. I do. I understand. That's cold tricky. That's fraud from the beginning. Well, it's only fraud if the company at the time you offer shares, you don't have the shares to issue. That's fraud. Right. I mean, there's no other way to do it. You can't. If I want to sell you a chicken and I haven't got the chicken yet, that's fraud because I can't deliver you a chicken. That this deal that before you could issue them any shares, the articles had to be amended. Was that said at the meeting? No. Okay. I don't recall it. Was the meeting recorded? Did somebody have the good sense to tape record the meeting so it could be transcribed? No. Did anybody take minutes of the meeting? Probably not. So there's no written record, there's no verbal record, there's no transcribable record of that meeting. There's no testimony of each investor. Testimony changes as mindsets change. And the oral representations are not tied to anything in writing. My current review of the transaction is that the offer and sale at that meeting probably violated a number of federal securities laws.
Some of the documents I would provide the FBI and the Securities and Exchange Commission about these major frauds included a memo by Philip Fay Stevenson, one of Smith's allies. Coney handmarked Stevenson's memo, noting it to be a big fraud. Shortly thereafter, what came to be known as the Bampton Memorandum also fell into my hands. Barry Bampton of Vancouver wrote it to Weldon Smith describing the full range of illegal maneuvers that a Vancouver stock exchange manipulator uses to illegally manipulate share prices with trading in restricted share blocks. Bampton wrote as follows. Banner loans to an arm's-length friend $100,000 to purchase 750,000 escrow shares in a block of free trading stock available. Friend will now do specific trades in the market on behalf of Banner. Details coming up. Banner does private placement tied to a performance guarantee by Shellco, i.e. spends the money on Nevada project or some Banner project and gets around some Vancouver Stock Exchange rules. Buyers commence market activity and move stock up to 50 to 60 cents. Many of the trades done by our friend are necessary due to the fact that if Banner owned the shares, they would have their large block restricted under control position rules. Therefore, many of the key blocks should be retained by nominees of Banner and can be kept in trust by a lawyer or in an account with Bill when not being traded, so you don't have to worry about possession